Receptor as drug targets. Receptors are proteins that are crucial to body's communication process. Majority of these are embedded in cell membranes. Yes, 1 minute. Yes, receptors are proteins that are crucial to body's communication. Yes, you already know about that. The touching of any hot substances, we can lift our hand. This is because the receptor sense this and send to neuron of the brain, and this brain again by the relay neuron it sends back the information to hand to take off the hand. Within a millisecond this process actually takes place. Okay, that is called receptor. These receptors are the proteins that are crucial to body's communication majority process. These receptors are useful for body's communication. These majority of these embedded in cell membrane. You already know about the cell is composed of, oh yes, here is the cell membrane. These cell membrane are embedded in it. The receptors are embedded in cell membrane. Receptor proteins are embedded in cell membrane in such a way that their small part possessing active site projects out of the surface of the membrane and opens on the outside region of the cell membrane. Yes, the receptor proteins are embedded in the cell membrane. You already know about that. In such a way that then small part possessing active site. Yes, this is the binding site called as active site of the receptor. It is facing outwards of the cell membrane and outside the region of the cell membrane, and projects out the surface of the membrane and opens onto the outside region of the cell membrane. That is given in this active site is outside the cell membrane. Okay, next, in this diagram we can find the cell in the closure look of cell membrane. There is the outer surface of cell membrane, inner surface of cell membrane, binding site, and also small part of the cell membrane, plasma membrane. Okay. What is in this figure tells about receptor protein embedded in the cell membrane of the active site of the receptor opens on the outside region of the cell. Okay, let's move on. In the body, message between two neurons and between neurons and to muscle and between neurons and muscle is communicated through certain chemical. These chemical known as chemical messenger. Actually, you know about this in the neural chapter in the first year biology. Chemical messengers are very important. Like when it is like this, the end of the neuron, there is a synapse present. If this is the two gaps between neuron, the two synapses, some of the chemical messengers come from ear to ear, ear to ear. It pass through it. Okay, that is called a chemical messenger. It can be active between two neurons or between the neuron and the muscle. Okay, it acts between neuron and muscle. Are known as chemical message are received at the binding site of the receptor protein to accommodate a messenger shape. Okay, in this binding site only it receives the chemical messenger. Okay, receive the binding site of the receptor protein to accommodate a messenger shape of the receptor site changes. To accommodate this message, this is sending some message like take your hand fastly. It when it binds to the active site of the when it binds to the active site of the receptor, it changes the shape of it. Here it is, shape of the receptor site changes. This brings out the transfer of message into the cell. This brings out transfer of message into the cell. Thus chemical messenger gives message to the cell without entering the cell. Thus chemical messenger gives message to the cell without entering the cell. Yes, here it is telling that receptors are very useful when some of the message are transferring without entering into the cell the message directly. It enters through cell membrane. In that the receptors are present. In that receptor there is an active site. This active site binds the chemical information, that is called chemical messenger, and it transfers to the cell message to the cell. Okay, that's what given in this picture. Here you can say that this is the cell membrane, induced fit, chemical messenger, binding site, outer surface of the cell membrane, interior of the cell. Here binding site fits, and it changes the shape of the receptors and transfers the message without entering the cell. This is the message. Okay, and then the binding site and then chemical messenger goes away. Okay, there is a diagrammatic explanation. Receptor receiving chemical messenger, shape of the receptor changed after the attachment of messenger, receptor regains structure after removal of the S. It's also very important. What happens after the removal of the chemical messenger? It regains the structure. Okay, that's what in the picture. There are large number of different receptors in the body that interact with different chemical messengers. These receptors show selectivity for one chemical messenger over the other because their binding sites have different shape, structure, and amino acid composition. Yes, if it is one of the receptor found in our hand. Okay, one of the chemical messenger want to enter this. Okay, that shape is like this. Will this enter this what we call receptor? No, the shape is changed, so only certain amount of chemical message this enter into this. Only certain amount of binding, okay, only certain amount of chemical messengers enter into these receptor. All chemical messengers does not enter into all the receptor present in our body. What are the dependents? They are given because the binding sites have the the binding sites have different shape, structure, amino acid composition. Yes, it also depends on the shape, structure, how it is formed, and also amino acid composition. What are the proteins? Proteins are made up of amino acids. What are the amino acid composition is present in this receptor, which is present in the cell membrane? That also matters. So all the chemical messengers does not enter the one of the specific receptor. This has to be understood. There are large number of different receptors in our body that interact with different chemical messengers. There is large number of different receptors in the body that interact with different chemical messengers. These receptors show selectivity for one chemical messenger over the other because their composition sites have different shape, structure, and amino acid composition. Okay. Drugs that bind to the receptor site and inhibit its natural function are called antagonists. Here drugs are very helpful for us. Here drugs that binds to the receptor site and inhibit its natural function are called antagonists. Okay, what are antagonists? Drug. Okay, first remember the receptor. Drugs, this is the drugs that binds to the receptor and inhibit the natural function. We already know about from antihistamine and any other chemicals. We know that it actually acts like an receptor, or what we call substrate, and but it does not as a own substrate. Okay, I will tell once more. Drugs that bind to the receptor site and inhibit its natural function are called antagonists. Okay, remember one thing. There is a receptor present. This is the drug. if you remember this, it is useful. It is, the definition is very easy. The drugs that binds to the receptor and inhibit its natural function is called antagonist. Okay, receptor that bind to the receptor site, sorry, drugs that bind to the receptor site and inhibit its natural function are called antagonist. These are useful when blocking of message is required. Yes, if some of the wrong message is blocking to our body, that if some of the if example the virus come into our body, but our WBC thinks that it is also in our body, it helpful, it don't kill that, it don't kill that viruses, it don't kill that viruses. A wrong message is passing through passing to the WBC. Here the antagonist very helps in that the message is interrupted, the message stops, that this antagonist stops this message telling that this is an our invitee, but it thinks that this is our enemy. This enmity is given to the WBC by passing antagonist drugs. So it is very useful in our body. These are useful in blocking of messages in required. There are other types of drugs that mimic the natural messenger by switching on the receptor. They are called agonists. There are other types of drugs that mimic the natural messenger by switching on the receptor. These are called agonists. Yes. Here, it's, first you have to take the useful, then you will understand the sentence. What is the difference? Here, these are useful when there is a lack of natural chemical messenger. When there is a lack of chemical messenger, example, so, if any of the bacteria come into our body, our WBC know that. Okay, 1 minute. What we call, these are useful in a lack of natural chemical messenger. Yes, our WBC know that this is an bacteria we have to kill, but there is 10 number of WBCs are there, but if they're limited, 2 chemical messengers are secreted. Here also 20 bacteria are there. Will it the bacteria become over dominant? So in that time, these 2 chemical messengers only kill some of the bacteria by giving the information to only 2 WBC. But if we have to increase the chemical messengers, we use agonist. This increases the chemical messengers and inform all the WBC to fight against the bacteria. All the WBC fight against the bacteria and get over of the illness or sickness or any other diseases. In this time, agonists are helpful. Okay, you have to be very careful about the difference between agonist and antagonist. Antagonist, it inhibit. It means if it is sending some of the information, it blocks. It enters the active site, but it does not it does not enter the chemical messenger to interrupt or send the chemical message. But in agonist, it is like that. The active sites are filled by mimicking the natural messenger by these drugs. It means it increases the chemical messenger, but here it decreases or stops the chemical messenger. That's the difference. Okay, it decreases or stops the chemical messengers in antagonist, but in agonist it increases the chemical messengers. Okay, that's the major difference. Let's move on. Okay, therapeutic action of different classes of drugs. Actually, we learned that in the starting also, drugs which are useful in therapeutic and some of the medicine, they are drugs used in therapeutic and biochemical processes. They are called therapy. In that, it is called as medicine, and also the study of the therapeutic biological process is called as chemotherapy. Okay, that's what we are discussing. So to discuss about that, this therapeutic action of different classes of drugs is very useful. Yes, therapeutic action of different classes of drugs. In this section, we will discuss about the therapeutic action of a few important classes of drugs. Okay, first one is antacids, 16.3.1, that is antacids. Overproduction of acid in the stomach causes irritation and pain. Yes, in our stomach HCl is secreted. You already know about that in biology and also in 10th also. Our production of acid in stomach causes irritation and pain when the pH rises to 1 or something. pH becomes less, the acidity increases and it causes irritation and pain. In several cases, ulcers are developed in the stomach. 1 minute, ulcers. I will tell about ulcers 1 minute. Yes, for your reference, I will show the image. Is it recording or not? Yes, it's recording. Yes, this is the stomach ulcer. You can see that in mouth also. Some of the wounds happen in your mouth also like this. It's not developed like this. Even the mouth size is like this. Here are some error like the happen in the stomach. Sorry, in mouth like that. Your stomach ulcer also present. Okay, let's jump. Okay. Overproduction of acid in the stomach causes irritation and pain. In several cases, ulcers are developed in the stomach. Until 1970, only the treatment for acidity was administration of antacids such as sodium hydrogen carbonate, mixture of aluminum and magnesium hydroxide. However, excessive. Okay, 1 minute. Did you find any of the common thing in this? What's happening? You can find actually what antacids also by using this, such as sodium hydrogen carbonate. Okay, NaCO3. And next is aluminum magnesium hydroxide. You can balance that. It means I am showing the main thing, common thing, so I am not giving any balanced structure. LOH3. Okay. Okay, this is the aluminum and magnesium hydroxide and NaCO3. Here OH is common. Do you think, do you know what is OH? Yes, it's a representation of base. What happens when base reacts with acid? Actually, when base reacts with acid, it gives salts and water. It means it decreases the acidity. That's why they are using antacids. There is no such a big thing that is antacids or something or any drug reaction happens. Here only the bases are given to that patient to cure the acidity. It's a simple thing. However, excessive hydrogen carbon can make the stomach alkaline. Yes, of course, we already told that base and acids are reacting and it decreases the acidity. But heavy heavy OH present makes water. It decreases the hydrogen and increases with the OH. That makes the body alkaline and trigger the production of even more acids. Yes, our stomach works like when the base enters, when the basicity alkaline increases, the acid production is also more increases. Yes, this is the one of the major cause. One thing is basicity is also increasing, acidity is also increasing. That makes our imbalance in our body. Okay, trigger the production of even more acids. Metal hydroxides are better alternative because of being insoluble. That do not increase the pH above neutrality. Yes, these are very useful. I also told that there is antacid, that is not any much complex thing. Yes, but these are useful when it is taken in a limited. But if it exists, it happens some of the causes. We need some of the things that affects our body less, and it has more dominant advantage over the disadvantage. So in that time, metal hydroxide come into place. Because what happens, what's the difference between metal hydroxides and this? Yes, the metal hydroxide do not increase the pH above neutrality. Okay, and because of being insoluble, it is insoluble. and also increase and does not increase above neutrality. Okay, this is the only thing we want, because if it increases above the neutrality, the basicity thing happens and the acid production becomes more. But when the pH above neutrality does not take place, it is actually in acid. There is a acid balance should be takes place and acidity can be come across. These treatments control our symptoms and not the cause. These treatments control only symptoms, not the cause. Yes, when we use these hydroxide, aluminum, magnesium, and hydrogen carbonate of sodium, it causes it causes some of the effects and also cures the symptom. But after that, anything extra causes will be happen. But we are the science students, so we will think about treatments control only symptoms and not cause any other diseases. Therefore, with these metal salts, the patient cannot be treated easily. Therefore, with these metal salts, the patient cannot be treated easily. In advanced stages, ulcers become life-threatening. What are in advanced stages, ulcers become life-threatening, and its only treatment is removal of the affected part of the stomach. Yes, in advanced stages, we are removing the ulcer part only without any damaging of the other parts. Okay. A major breakthrough in the treatment of hyperacidity came through the discovery, according to the chemical histamine, and stimulates the secretion of pepsin and hydrochloric acid in the stomach. The drug cimetidine here becomes the major breakdown through in the treatment of hyperacidity came through discovery, according to which a chemical histamine stimulates the secretion and hydrochloric acid in stomach. Yes, the chemical that histamine stimulates the secretion of pepsin and HCl in stomach. This was known to the scientists and they investigated, and the drug citimidine, tigament, this is the better word to remember, tigament or cimetidine. Tigament was designed to prevent the interaction of histamine with the receptors present in the stomach wall. This resulted in the release of lesser amount of acid. The importance of the drug was so much that it remained the largest selling drug in the world until another drug. Okay, here one of the major thing and funny thing is also there. We have to observe this. Tigament was designed. What happens here is these tigaments designed, it acts histamine actually increasing the production of pepsin and hydrochloric acid in our stomach. But this drug called tigament, what makes here is prevent the interaction of histamine with the receptor present in the stomach wall. This makes that histamine cannot be interacted with stomach wall to secrete more HCl and pepsin. This is the thing happening. So we can act drastically the hydrochloric acid release and pepsin also it decreases, so our body becomes homeostatic. Okay. Oh, what's the funny thing? This resulted in the release of lesser amount of acids. Okay, the importance of the drug was so much that it remained the largest selling drug in the world. Remember this point. Which is the largest selling drug in the world? Tigament is the largest selling drug in the world until another drug, Ranitidine, Zantac, was discovered. Actually, until the discovery of Zantac, this became the world's most selling drug. If you want the tegament structure, it is the tegament structure. Actually, this tegament controls the prevention of histamine to the stomach wall. Okay, we have ranitidine, Zantac that we are discussing. Let's move on to the Ranitidine. Zantac was discovered. Yes, ranitidine. Zantac was discovered. Antihistamines. Histamine is a potent vasodilator. Histamine is a potent vasodilator. Yes, sir. Histamine is a potent vasodilator. What is meant by potent vasodilator? It is when the blood pressure increases, this valence of blood vessels has to be improved. This is has to be improved by histamine. So it is called as a potent vasodilator. Okay, it is also called as a potent vasodilator. That is explained in these sentences. It has various functions. It contracts the smooth muscles in the bronchi. In the bronchi, it means in the lungs. There is a bronchi and alveolus are there. In these bronchi, it actually contracts the bronchi to flow of air easily, and gut and relax other muscles such that those in the walls find blood vessels. Actually, I told that in the blood vessels also its valence to decrease the blood pressure when it is high blood pressure. Histamine also responsible for the nasal congestion. Okay, it means when the nose, here is the nose, there is some of this due to some mucus production, these nose valence due to the production of heavy mucus in the time of common cold. So therefore histamine play important role in the nasal congestion associated with the common cold, and also allergic response to the pollen. Okay, it helps in the nasal congestions actually, and fine blood vessels and smooth muscles in the bronchi contraction, and also the allergic response to the pollen. Okay, next is synthetic drugs. Bromphene. Okay, some of the synthetic drugs, bromphene and terfenadine, acts as an antihistamines. They interfere with the natural action of histamine by competing with histamine for binding sites of receptor where histamine exerts its effect. Now the question that arises is, why do above mentioned antihistamine not affect the secretion of acid in stomach? The reason is that anti-allergic and anti-acid drugs work on different receptors. We already learned about this. Different receptor works on different chemical messengers. Next is tranquilizers. These are the very important thing. Tranquilizers and analgesics. We already learned that analgesics. PAA, pharmacological antiseptic analgesic. It is used in the killing of microorganisms. Okay, bacteria. Okay, tranquilizers and analgesics are neurologically active drugs. These affect the message transfer mechanism from nerve to receptor. Tranquilizers are a class of chemical compounds used for treatment of stress and mild or even severe mental diseases. These relieve anxiety, stress, irritability, or excitement by inducing a sense of well-being. They form an essential component of sleeping pills. These are various types of tranquilizers. They function by different mechanisms. For example, noradrenaline is one of the neurotransmitters that plays important role in mood changes. If the level of noradrenaline is low for some reason, then signal sending activity becomes slow. Okay, adrenaline. Okay. This they form an essential component. Say, okay, where is that noradrenaline? For example, noradrenaline is one of the neurotransmitter that plays a role in mood changes. If the level of noradrenaline is low for some reason, then the signal sending activity becomes low and the person suffer from depression. Yes, when we go to depression, In the case of when the signal sending activity becomes slow, here they told that when the signal sending activity becomes slow, the person suffers from depression. In such situation, antidepressant drugs are required. Okay, antidepressant drugs are required. These drugs inhibit the enzymes which catalyzes these drugs inhibit the enzyme which catalyzes the dehydration or dehydration of non-adrenaline. If the enzyme is inhibited, this important neurotransmitter is slowly metabolized and can activate its receptor for longer period of time, thus counteracting the effect of depression. Iproniazid and phenylize are two such drugs.